All right, let's go ahead and take a look at how we would go about doing this. I think this is pretty straightforward, but I want to go through it anyway. So I'm just going to call my function fetch data. And it's going to be an async function, so I want to use async there. I'll just use an arrow function for creating this for now. And that's how I'd set it up, with an arrow function. I don't need parentheses here because I just have one parameter. But if I didn't have any parameters, there'd be parentheses there. The async would go before that. So that's how we'd go ahead and set that up. Now, I want to make sure that I set this up correctly, so I'm going to handle any problems that occur, any errors, any rejections. I want to make sure I do that. So I'm going to set up a try-catch block to take care of that. Whoops. And then in the catch portion of that, if that ever invokes, I'm just going to do a console.warn and display whatever the message is that's passed to that catch block if there's any issues up above. All right, so there we've got the structure of the try-catch block, and then we're passing in this data here. I want to use fetch on that URL. So I'm declaring a variable resp, and then since it's fetch, which returns a promise, I use await. Pass in the URL, and then once that is returned, nothing below this line, of course, will be executed until that promise is done. And then what I'm going to do to create this is I'm going to immediately return the data once I run the JSON placeholder on it. Okay, I'm just going to immediately return that. So basically, we're returning a promise. But if you remember, an async function returns a promise anyway. So I could do another line here, but I would still end up doing the same type of thing. This way, I'm just skipping a line, making it a little bit easier there. So I've set up the function, and I can use this function anywhere now. I can use this function for fetching data from sites, and it will automatically take care of the response object for me. So I don't have to do that each time I use fetch. That's the advantage of creating this particular function here. But since it's an async function, how would I go about using it? Well, let me first show you what I would probably do if I were just getting the data and I didn't need to process it much. Then I would just call this function, and then I'm going to grab a URL here. I'm going to get the comments from the JSON placeholder side is what I'm going to get. And I'd pass in that URL to get that. And then if I just wanted to do something simple like display the data, well, then I would do it with a then method. Because I think that's fairly clean. If I have to start chaining a lot of then methods, then that's where it gets a little messier. I may want to use an async function. Or if I need to do a lot of processing of that data, then I may want to use an async function because I'm doing other stuff. After I fetch this data, I'm doing other stuff to it. So I can use the wait keyword inside of there, wait till that data returns, and then continue to process it. But this is what I'm going to do for now. Let me just save that and make sure we are getting what we want to. And yeah, I have an array of 500. There are that many. And so I'm getting all that data. Here are the comments. Okay? So yeah, so that worked. And that not only shows the creation of an async function here, but it shows how you would use that. And it's important to remember that an async function returns a promise. And so you need to handle it like you're working with promises. All right, hopefully that gave you a chance to create an async function from scratch. And let's go ahead and move on to the next topic.